Hello everyone and welcome back to another math video. Today we're going to be looking at how to measure using a ruler, specifically an inch ruler. Also this applies to tape measures, right? And so just a refresher, this is the short version of this video. So we're going to go pretty quickly. If you want the longer, more in-depth, where we do a bunch of examples, I will link that in the description below. All right, let's see how this works. So, tape measures, rulers, being able to measure distance accurately, very, very important in the world of construction, okay? Any type of building job or building site will have tape measures, will have, ways to measure distance. And so this is super, super important. Now, this is, I've zoomed in a little bit here because I want to look at these markings. There are a bunch of markings here. Each marking means something. And so the way you start is you look at, okay, between 0 and 1, how many markings or tick marks are there? You do not count the starting number, all right? So then this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then this is obviously, 8, okay? And so this is split into 8 markings, so that means that this right here is 1 out of the 8 markings. This is 2 out of the 8 markings, 3 out of the 8 markings, 4 out of the 8 markings, 5 out of 8, 6 out of 8, 7 out of 8, and then you could say this is 8 out of 8, but it's just the 1 mark, okay? Now some of these fractions can be rewritten, meaning 2 out of 8 is the same. It can be reduced into 1/4. 4 out of 8 could be written as 2/4, or it could be written as 1/2. Okay, 6/8 could be written as 3/4. And so going past it, right, if you were looking at, this spot right here, this is obviously, 1/8. This would be read as 1 1/8 of an inch, okay? 1 1/8 of an inch. So now let's practice this, okay? Let's measure some things. So it says, here we have a slug, all right? And it says measure to the nearest inch. So when it says nearest inch, it just wants the nearest whole number. And so this goes from 0 inches up to 3 inches. Okay, I didn't draw a very straight line, but it's closest to the 3, right? So my answer here is just 3 inches. Now, really important here that you notice on a ruler, usually there's a little bit of a gap between where your numbers start and the edge of the ruler or the tape measure. So make sure that you start at the numbers, not necessarily the edge. All right, this one says measure to the nearest 1/2 of an inch. So, it's somewhere between 2 and 3. And this, how many markings are there? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is 1/4, 2/4, 3/4, and 4/4. And we said 2/4 can be reduced into 1/2. So the way I would read this, this goes to 2 1/2 of an inch, 2.5 inches. For this one, it says measure to the nearest 1/4 of an inch. Some people might, instead of saying 1/4 of an inch, they might say nearest 1/4 of an inch. So when we line this up, this is the same as the ruler that we started with. So we should remember that, it looks like it's going to right here. Okay, and this is 6 out of the 8 markings, which is, we said 3/4 reduced. So this is 6 3/4 of an inch, or 6 3/4 of an inch. All right, here's our cool clock for today, which means that it's time for you to practice what you just learned. Go ahead and pause the video and try these 2 problems on your own. And when you're ready, you can unpause the video and we'll check your solutions. Okay, now that you've had a chance to work these problems, let's check your solutions. So for the first problem here, number 1, nearest 1/4 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, it goes to right here. Okay, I want to cover my lines. So this is 2 out of the 8 lines. So it is 1/4. So this was 11 1/4 of an inch. Final answer. For number 2, nearest half of an inch. We know it's between 5 and 6, so if we're saying it has to be a half inch, that would have to be 5.5, right? This is 2/4, so definitely 5.5. Another way to look at those half inches is right halfway between 4 and 5, 3 and 4. You know, those are the halfway marks. Same thing actually with the quarters, with 1/4, where you can split it into 4 equal regions. Okay, for example, if I were to do that for this ruler right here, if I were to split that into 4 equal regions, right? So that would be, you know, here's the first fourth, the second fourth, and the third fourth. And that's the same thing as the reduced fraction, right? Second fourth, third fourth. All right, that is it for today. I hope you all have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.